I'd like to share, if I may, about Peter Bassey. So that's what this video is about. So greetings to everybody that's looking at this. I was very confused over the weekend, as was my friend, because I told my friend about Peter Bassey as well. So he's a Nigerian, and I'll quickly run through what I know about him in a minute. But over the weekend we were very confused because his Facebook profile said lived in Miami. Now the story behind that is the usual Nigerian scam background, in that it is so difficult to be taken seriously in the rest of the world if you are from Nigeria. So obviously Peter is in a very poor kind of environment where he is, and would like to have the freedom to be able to preach and to be able to go places at will because he's got some money. Now here's the big thing with Peter. He is so fed up, and all his life since he was converted at 11 and baptized in the Spirit, then he has been ministering since he was 11. I mean, I can share my experience there, because as soon as I was baptized in the Spirit with fire, after being converted at 13, that's what happened to me. I began preaching into a school, in my school. So I perfectly understand him beginning at such a young age. He's now 27. But unlike a lot of people, he hasn't burnt out. He has... he's an orphan. He's lost both his parents when young, around that time, I think. And he has pressed on in praying. He prays enormously. He fasts enormously. He lays hold of the power of God. He's one of these people that you would normally see on American satellite TV or Nigerian satellite TV or God Channel or whatever, except for one thing. He hates the use of money for the gospel. So he stands out among a lot of Africans at the moment, as he is powerful and he has anointing, but he will not ask for offerings from those he ministers to, especially as his is a pioneer ministry. And God has given him 3 angels assigned to him, 3 angels assigned to him in ministry. And for that reason, he does mad things. So just this year, he went into a territory of his state, or is it another state? I get confused with all the Nigerian states. But a witchcraft town where the elders, where everything is really revolves around, if you understand African spirit stuff, this particular thing revolves around a particular tree in the town, and it's been assigned much power, and everything seems to revolve around this tree. Now in Britain we just say, oh, that's superstition, but this is reality. I mean, there are people, witches there, and there was one witch who had assigned death to, was it a father or a family anyway, in October, November this year. This was back in earlier, was it May, June or something? But they'd already stated, any evangelist who steps onto this town to preach the gospel will die. And it's very difficult for Westerners to understand this, but these people move in spiritual power. And instead what happened was, while he was mad enough to set up a preaching series of meetings and outreach into this town, and instead that witch, that particular witch who stated that he was putting a curse on this such and such a person, he died of a heart attack during those meetings. So we're dealing with spiritual powers here. before the meetings even started, there was a lady delivered from 77 demons. She was totally different afterwards. She'd been, it was part of a generational curse put upon her, and all her life she'd been regarded as really an imbecile and had very acute problems, and yet she was completely delivered. And that was before the outreach meetings proper had started. So I was confused. Why did you put Miami on your profile? It's confusing everybody. So Peter is about to get married to his fiancée, and the American fiancée had this idea, and you can understand that, in that Peter was going to be moving to Florida. But God has indicated at the moment otherwise, and other things are happening. But his fiancée had said, well, why don't you put Miami, because we're planning to live there anyway. She doesn't actually live in Miami now. So that caused a lot of confusion over the weekend. My friend said, it sounds like he's a scammer, he is. And I knew it wasn't a scammer because he takes a lot of video and photos when I'm talking to him. So I can see him walking around Nigeria. So I know he's not in Miami. And so I asked him about that, and that was what it is. Anyway, I think he's changed it to his hometown now. But what has happened in the interim, you see, that was a few months ago, possibly even last year. But what has happened in the interim is that God has given him a haul from someone he touched and someone he blessed 2 years ago, a Ghanaian who's gone back to Ghana, and he's left him his former clubhouse. So we've got this strange situation where Peter himself, he did have a graphics job until the COVID mandate, which said, if you haven't got the vaccines, you can't work here. So he had to leave. So he's got no money coming in from that source. He got a vegetable patch. He's got one room with not even a bed. He sleeps on the floor, and one electric light. Everybody derides him, all the other ministries, because they say, you should be getting a tithe off everybody. You should be in a better place. This is not God's blessing because you've got nothing. But he's just one of these guys that you always read about in books, whose primary intent is breaking open new territories and evangelizing and using the power of God. And someone the other day, basically the hall is quite a distance away from where he lives, and he doesn't feel to move where the hall is at present. The hall is in Lagos State, and I thought Lagos was a city, but Lagos is a state. So it's in a Muslim area of Lagos, and so he's reaching and touching Muslims. So last week was the request from 28 Muslims, could we have a Bible? Well, I felt to send so much, but originally we thought they were around $7 or $8, but to get a decent one seems to be around $11. That people actually enjoy reading. So we started buying some. But this is the ludicrous situation. The people who are requesting this have hardly the money to eat. They're that poor. A lot of them live in wooden shacks with leaves on the roof, Peter was telling me. And so when it rains, they just suffer. And some then have to go into hospital because they're just so ill. We're talking really, really poor people, and he's ministering, and he doesn't feel to take any money at all. In fact, he gets very annoyed because they themselves want to give him money, and they sneak it to the to the sound engineer. But he knows that that is money that they need to put food on the table that day. So he's very loath to take it. So we've got this situation whereby he is not funded. He has to believe the Lord for everything. And if you can see what he achieves with next to nothing, you can imagine what would be enabled if people were giving him money. And I trust the guy because I've talked to him in depth about his motivation and lots of things, and God's used me to imprint upon him something about the kingdom that isn't quite coming over in Nigeria. So it's not like I don't know the guy, and he's, as I say, he's taken me around the streets, taken me all kinds of places using FaceTime. So I got an idea of his surroundings. That's where he lives, but where he ministers, I haven't got much idea yet. But I have got. He did send me a few pictures of how it was working. So there's the hall, but outside the hall is a space, and it's that space, the open space, which he's able to use to preach to passers-by and anyone who wants to come and listen. And it's being very fruitful. It's amazing, actually. So that's a bit about what I want to share. I mean, what a great problem to have. Muslims want Bibles. What kind of a problem is that? Isn't that wonderful? So I just share that with you. And I want to allay suspicions and just encourage you to get to know him, pray for him, learn from him, and share with him. So whatever.